Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you all very, very much. The library runs a tight ship, so we've got to stay on schedule. I would like to thank Mike. That was great. A little bit like hearing your own eulogy, but it was terrific. I appreciate it very much. I want to just quickly recognize two people who are here before I get into the gist of what I want to say about the book. One is Midge Rendell, who was, as you know, a great partner, and in what we did and what we accomplished, was a great First Lady, and did so much to promote the development of the Avenue of the Arts, which was so crucial to the turnaround of the city of Philadelphia. I don't know if any of you saw the Wall Street Journal from about 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago. They did a wonderful piece on Philadelphia and how vibrant the city had become, and they profiled Philadelphia through the eyes of four people, an architect, a developer, and they did it through Midge's eyes, and she was called a culturist. Now, I'm not sure if that's a dictionary word, but neither is wussification. But if it is not a dictionary word, Midge deserves it, and she did a great job for all of us. Then I want to recognize my friend Louis Katz, who's in the front row. And the reason I want to recognize him is because he's in the book. And one of the things I tried to do with this book, and people always ask, well, why'd you write the book? I wrote the book for a couple of reasons. And the first was I wanted to give people an idea about how public service, doing the things that little clip Mike read to you that's at the end of the book, is exhilarating. It's fun, it's wacky, it's an incredible up and down road. There are frustrations and challenges built in, but it's just a wonderful way to live your life. And I hope that, number one, the book would entertain, but two, that it would make people laugh and make people, particularly young people, think more kindly about public service. One of the things that's distressful to me as my life has gone on is to see what disdain the public seems to hold government in. And there's good government and bad government. There's good government spending and there's bad, wasteful government spending. So I wanted to sort of have fun with the book and show the human side of the great political leaders and people that I've gotten to know. And Lou figures in one of the stories about President Clinton, which I want to tell you. Shortly after President Clinton got elected and got sworn in, took the oath of office, they did a fundraiser for the Democratic National Committee in New York. President Clinton was going to speak, and I came up from Philadelphia with some Philadelphians to help out the event. And it was co-hosted by a man by the name of Bruce Ratner and Louis Katz. And they decided, I don't know what the decision-making process was, that Bruce Ratner would have the honor of introducing the president. But Louis would speak first, welcome everyone, introduce Bruce Ratner. So as they're waiting to go on, Louis goes over to President Clinton, and they were good friends. Louis had been a big help to the president. And he said, Mr. President, will you do me a favor? While Bruce is speaking, I want you to just cup your hand and whisper something in my ear. And the president says, well, what do you want me to whisper? And Louis said, it doesn't matter. Just whisper, and I'll be nodding. And President Clinton says, well, why in God's name do you want me to do that? He said, well, I've just bought a parking company, and there are about 12 building owners in the audience who have big parking concessions, and if they think I'm giving you advice by nodding when you're talking to me, they're going to hire my parking company. So the president sort of shrugs his shoulders and says, all right. So they go outside. Louis speaks, then he introduces Bruce Ratner. Bruce Ratner is speaking, and President Clinton dutifully leans over, cups his hand, and whispers into Louis's ear. And while he's whispering, Louis is nodding very sagaciously, like he's giving the president advice. And what President Clinton whispered in Louis's ear was, Katz, you're a real putz. But the tagline is it did the job, and I think 7 out of those 12 building owners hired Kinney Parking shortly thereafter. Well, the second reason I wrote the book was a more serious reason. I do believe that the country's in trouble. You don't need me here to tell you that. We're in trouble because of the paralysis, because of the failure to act. And by the way, we focus on Washington, D.C., but that's not very much different in Albany and Sacramento and Harrisburg and Springfield. The partisanship has risen to such a level that it doesn't look like we can do anything. We can't get out of our own way. And it's got to change. And there are many reasons for it. But I believe one of the strongest reasons is the polarization that exists has made each side, some very strong and thoughtful leaders, afraid of their base. The Republicans are afraid of the Tea Party and the radical right, and they should be afraid of it. A good conservative like Bill Bennett in Utah lost to a Tea Party candidate. One of the great senators in my lifetime, one of the great Republican senators, Richard Lugar, lost to a guy who appears to be an imbecile. I don't know him. He appears to be an imbecile. He said the day after he beat Lugar, the press asked him, how in fact are we going to do this if both sides don't get along? Are you willing to compromise? He said, absolutely. We'll compromise. The Democrats should adopt our positions. Which stunned people and ironically had the effect of helping the Democratic candidate for Senate in Indiana, who would have been crushed by Richard Lugar in an election. So the Democrats may take back that seat, as we did in Delaware. Mike Castle, can you imagine Mike Castle losing to Christine O'Donnell? Mike Castle was a great governor of Delaware, was a great congressman, was a true moderate, had conservative fiscal values, but moderate on social issues. He was a terrific public servant. And he lost to a woman who, if not a witch per se, took some courses in witchcraft, I mean, absolutely stunning. But it's hardly better on our side either. It's hardly better on our side. The Blue Dog Democrats, most of them lost in the 2010 election, but the remaining few Blue Dog Democrats, many of them lost in this recent primary, including a Pennsylvanian by the name of Tim Holden, who had represented Harrisburg, Schuylkill County, sort of the central Pennsylvania area, and was, yes, a conservative Democrat, but a good conservative Democrat, someone who was careful and who listened and you could talk to. And he lost to a challenger from the left because he was redistricted, and the city of Scranton and Wilkes-Barre were both included in his district, and he lost to a more progressive candidate from up there. Now, you may say, well, that's good. I'm a progressive. I want more progressive candidates. But Tim Holden was one of the few people in Washington who could speak to the other side. And we're losing dialogue. We don't have political dialogue. We don't have substantive dialogue. All we do is trash each other. And worse still, we don't even have the social dialogue that used to bring people together. Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, Ted Kennedy and Orrin Hatch. All of that is gone. Lewis and I were talking at dinner about a good friend of ours, Tom Daschle. I know many of you remember Tom. He was the Democratic majority leader in the Senate. And I can say without fear of contradiction, one of the nicest people I ever met in politics, one of the most genuinely honest, decent, wonderful guys. When he was defeated in the 2004 Senate election, lost by 1 percentage point, and he lost in November, the changeover was going to be January 7th. On January 3rd, they had a special Senate testimonial session to Tom Daschle. It was at 6 o'clock. Senate wasn't in session. There was no roll call. Only 4 Republican senators showed up. For the Democratic leader, who is as nice a person as you will ever meet, who was as accommodating and stretched out the olive branch to Republicans, only 4 had the courage to even show up. And the prevailing mood, what the fellow who beat Richard Lugar said, that's the prevailing mood out there, because the extreme right of the Republican Party doesn't want them talking to Democrats, doesn't want them compromising. But the bulk of us in the middle do. And one of the problems facing us is that this polarization And all of the talk on talk radio and on cable television, all of it